Hey warriors, welcome to the channel. Tonight we confront a quiet tragedy, why the very minds capable of guiding society forward are the ones it tries hardest to silence. If you've ever felt punished for thinking differently, stay with me, because by the end of this video you will understand the real enemy, not ignorance, but the fear of intelligence. There is an unspoken rule woven into the fabric of every civilization, from ancient kingdoms to modern democracies. Power fears anything it cannot bend, predict, or manipulate. And nothing resists control more naturally than a genuinely intelligent mind. Not the kind molded by institutions or polished by credentials, but the raw, unfiltered intellect that questions why things are the way they are. This kind of mind is a problem because it refuses to be domesticated. Imagine a society built like a grand machine, every individual expected to play their assigned part, move as instructed, think within the borders drawn for them. It runs smoothly only when people follow. But the intelligent person? They don't simply play their role. They inspect the gears, they ask who built the machine, they wonder what happens if certain parts stop moving. Their curiosity disrupts the quiet order everyone else is taught to protect. And disruption is the one thing society cannot easily control. Those in power, whether political, corporate, or social, rely on predictability. Predictable citizens vote as expected, consume as expected, obey as expected. But intelligent people observe patterns too clearly to be predictable. They see through manipulation. They are not swayed by slogans, emotional bait, or manufactured outrage. Their independence makes them resistant to propaganda. That resistance makes them dangerous. Society responds with subtle hostility. It labels intelligent individuals as difficult, arrogant, or out of place. Not because they are any of these things, but because labeling them creates social pressure to conform. If they comply, they can be controlled. If they don't, they become outsiders. Exile isn't always physical. Sometimes it's social, psychological, reputational, anything to discourage others from thinking as freely. Control isn't only about authority, it's about comfort. Most people find security in the familiar, the predictable, the traditional. Intelligent thinkers disrupt that by introducing ideas that demand reconsideration, responsibility, and change. They challenge the narratives people cling to. When someone presents uncomfortable truths, society perceives them as threats, not allies. It is easier to fear the intelligent than to evolve with them. This fear becomes cultural. Children who question too much are told to stop overthinking. Teens who analyze the world are labeled rebellious. Adults who refuse to follow the crowd are branded antisocial. Every stage of life tries to trim the edges off the mind that grows too sharply. The goal is simple: make intelligence manageable, predictable, safe. But true intelligence is none of those things. Every society survives on a collection of illusions, carefully crafted stories that keep people comfortable, obedient, and aligned with the world as it is. These illusions can be political, social, moral, or even personal. They tell people what to believe, what to value, what to fear. They simplify the world into digestible pieces so that the majority does not have to confront the complicated truth. But intelligent individuals, they see the cracks. They hear the hidden machinery humming behind the curtain. They notice the details others have been trained to overlook. And that vision alone is enough to make them unsettling. When an intelligent person speaks, they disrupt the equilibrium. They point out the inconsistencies in a system everyone else agreed not to question. They highlight the hypocrisy in traditions that have been accepted as sacred. They reveal the invisible hands shaping public opinion. And for a society built on shared illusions, this is not enlightenment. It is destabilization. Most people aren't prepared to confront truths that demand personal responsibility or independent thinking. The intelligent person doesn't just expose illusions, they force others to see what they've been conditioned to ignore. Think of how many institutions rely on unquestioned belief. Schools teach from standardized scripts. Media channels feed narratives wrapped in emotional packaging. Governments depend on citizens accepting what is convenient rather than what is factual. Even families pass down beliefs disguised as truths. And yet one sharp mind can unravel an entire thread of illusion. All it takes is a single question: why? A question so small, yet so threatening, because it pulls back the curtain inch by inch until the comforting lies lose their power. This is why intelligent people are often met with irritation, defensiveness, or even hostility. When someone exposes an illusion, they are not just challenging a story, they are challenging the identity built around that story. People cling to beliefs because beliefs give them stability, but if those beliefs shatter under the weight of logic or evidence, they are left in a state of uncertainty. Most will protect the illusion rather than embrace the truth. This is why the intelligent are seen as dangerous. Their clarity threatens the emotional equilibrium of the masses. The intelligent mind is like a lantern in a dark room. It doesn't create the shadows, it reveals them. But illumination is not always welcomed. Many prefer the dark if the light forces them to confront realities they've avoided. Society needs illusions to function smoothly, and anyone capable of seeing through them becomes a disruptor, even if that was never their intention. If there is one thing society worships more than success, more than morality, even more than truth, it is conformity, the quiet, invisible obedience that keeps the social machine running without friction. People are taught from childhood that blending in is safe, that matching the world around them is a form of survival. And for most, it is. But for the intelligent mind, conformity is a cage. They see beyond boundaries, beyond customs, beyond the comfortable repetition that everyone else accepts without question, and that refusal to shrink themselves creates tension, because society only functions smoothly when people follow the script handed to them. From the moment a child enters a classroom, the pressure begins. The system rewards memorization, not imagination. It praises compliance, not curiosity. A student who thinks differently is labeled distracted, uncooperative, or too intense. These labels aren't descriptions, they're warnings. Warnings that the child is drifting away from the collective rhythm. As they grow older, the message becomes clearer. Think freely, and you will be seen as a problem. Follow the herd, and you will be rewarded. This is how conformity becomes the unspoken law of society. Intelligent people disrupt that law simply by existing as they are. They question procedures that seem inefficient. They challenge ideas that contradict reason. They see flaws in traditions and refuse to pretend those flaws don't exist. And instead of celebrating this clarity, society often resents it. Why? Because independent thinking demands change, and change demands effort. It demands that others examine parts of themselves they've long ignored. Conformity requires no such work. It is effortless, familiar, and predictable. So when the intelligent push against it, people instinctively push back. This resistance isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it comes as subtle social pressure, disapproving looks, awkward silence, or the kind of laughter that isn't humor but warning. Other times it manifests as isolation. People start to distance themselves because the intelligent mind makes them feel exposed. It is not that the thinker is arrogant, it is that their presence disrupts the illusion of certainty everyone clings to. Conformity thrives on the idea that things just are. Intelligence thrives on the idea that things could be better. These two forces cannot coexist peacefully. Workplaces follow the same pattern. Employees who ask too many questions or propose too many improvements are seen as threats to the established hierarchy. Leaders feel challenged. Co-workers feel judged. The easiest solution is to silence the thinker, not through force, but through exclusion or subtle discouragement. After all, conformity doesn't require the best ideas, it only requires the safest ones, the ones that maintain the hierarchy rather than upend it. And the intelligent person, simply by thinking deeply, becomes a disruptor in systems designed to reward sameness. In every era, in every empire, one truth remains constant. Authority does not fear rebellion, chaos, or even violence, as much as it fears a mind it cannot predict. Power can crush a sword, silence a protest, rewrite a law, but it cannot easily defeat an idea that was born from intelligence. And that is why the intelligent are treated with suspicion. Not because they disobey authority, but because they have the capacity to understand it, deconstruct it, and outmaneuver it in ways that the average person cannot. A ruler, whether a king, a politician, a CEO, or even a social leader, depends on the illusion of superiority. They must appear wiser, stronger, and more decisive than those they lead. But an intelligent person observes patterns with uncomfortable precision. They notice inconsistencies in leadership. They recognize manipulation techniques. They identify power games not as destiny but as design. They see when authority is justified and when it is nothing more than a performance. And once someone sees the performance clearly, it loses its magic. That loss of magic is what authority fears most. What makes intelligent individuals threatening isn't rebellion, it's comprehension. They can anticipate decisions before they are publicly announced. They can predict outcomes based on logic rather than propaganda. They can decipher motives behind policies, actions, and social pressure. Intelligence turns chaos into clarity, and clarity is the enemy of those who operate in shadows. When an intelligent person speaks up, they strip power of its disguise, revealing the muck, innery underneath. Authority cannot tolerate that level of transparency. Even in smaller settings, the pattern repeats. In workplaces, the most intelligent employee becomes the unspoken rival to management. In social groups, the sharp thinker becomes a threat to the self-appointed leader. In communities, the insightful individual becomes the one people whisper about because they see too much, understand too much, and refuse to be deceived. Power does not like to share the stage, and intelligence naturally claims space, not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. This is why many intelligent people find themselves strategically excluded, not because they are toxic, but because they can't be manipulated the way others can. They cannot be guilted into silence or pressured into obedience. They don't respond to authority with blind acceptance, but with analysis. And analysis is dangerous when the goal of authority is control, not truth. For those in power, it is much easier to surround themselves with people who follow than people who think. An obedient crowd maintains the system. A single intelligent person can expose its flaws. And so society develops an instinctive distrust toward the intelligent, not because they cause chaos, but because they make invisible power visible. They question hierarchies others accept. They reveal weaknesses others ignore. They see outcomes others never consider. Authority fears them, not for what they do, but for what they are capable of seeing. In the end, the fear of intelligent people is not a flaw in society. It is a strategy, a mechanism woven through classrooms, workplaces, governments, and social circles. Intelligence threatens illusions by revealing truth. It disrupts conformity by challenging the comfortable rhythm everyone else follows. It unsettles power by seeing through the performance of authority. And it resists control by thinking freely, refusing to be molded into something predictable. Throughout history, society has learned to admire intelligence from a distance but fear it up close. It praises genius in books, but silences it in real life. It celebrates independent thinkers after they're gone, but discourages them while they're alive. Because an intelligent mind does not just witness the world, it interrogates it, questions it, reshapes it, and reshaping the world is dangerous for the systems that rely on predictability. Yet despite the fear, despite the resistance, despite the attempts to tame or diminish them, intelligent people continue to emerge. They continue to question, they continue to see, they continue to push humanity forward, even when society pulls back. And while the world may fear them, it is also shaped by them, reshaped, reimagined, reinvented by those who refuse to think small. So if you have felt misunderstood, underestimated, or out of place, understand this: society may fear intelligence, but it also depends on it. The world only evolves because someone dares to think beyond its limits.